This is the character I have been dying to talk about. This is the character I practically made this series for. I also might have a tiny bit of a crush on him, so if this video just turns into me fangirling, apologies in advance. So buckle up. This is gonna be fun. Hi nerds! Welcome to another video in my series Villain or Victim. Today we will be taking a look at one of the few villains Marvel actually gets right, Loki. But before I dive into that exciting topic, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell if you're a nerd and want to see more videos like this one. So, Loki. Aside from Thanos, Loki is praised as being one of the most complex and compelling villains in the MCU. Due to him appearing in so many movies, we have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get right into it. If you've watched Matthew and I review the first Thor movie, you'll know that we both loved Loki in that film. And if you haven't watched our review yet, I highly suggest it. It's a lot of fun. We both hold the idea that Loki is not a villain in this movie. Rather, he serves as a force acting against our main character, Thor, as well as an interesting mirror. Both Loki and Thor struggle with the concept of worthiness and seek affirmation from their father. Both begin with the idea that your worth comes from your birth status, and both have this idea stripped from them. Thor, when he can no longer lift his hammer, and Loki, when he learns that he's a frost giant by birth and was adopted by Odin. Another thing I pointed out during our review was how you can watch Loki's fall through the movie and see glimpses of what led up to it. Throughout the opening scenes, he's ignored or looked down on by his older brother, which shows that the rivalry between them is nothing new. We see very few interactions between Odin and his youngest son, but what we do see shows the marks of a troubled relationship. Odin, like Thor, ignores Loki's presence, hollers at him not to speak, or promptly falls asleep the moment conflict arises between them, the moment Loki needed a father figure to tell him that he's valued and loved. Loki's friends, the Warriors 3 and Sif, are quick to assume that Loki being on the throne is a bad thing. But as we see later in Ragnarok, Loki actually makes a half-decent king. Asgard certainly seems to be thriving as much as ever. Finally, and huge props to Tom Hiddleston for portraying this so well, Loki is much more than a one-dimensional evil character in this movie. There's deep emotion in every line, and we can see just how devoted he is to his cause. In the movie Thor, Loki is a victim. Whew, first movie covered. Have I lost anyone yet? Okay, now for Loki's big appearance, and actually the first time that I was introduced to this character, in the Avengers. There's a lot I could say here, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. Having failed to rule Asgard and still reeling from the discovery that he's adopted, Loki is presumably found by Thanos. Now, we don't really know much of what goes on between the end of the Thor movie and the start of the Avengers movie, but we can reasonably assume that Loki is offered the chance of kinship and accepts. Loki goes on to steal the Tesseract, kill something like 83 people in 2 days, and invade the city of New York with an army of aliens. Well, he is adopted. From what we see in this movie, Loki is bad. There's no argument there. He's the big bad villain whom the heroes have to band together and put aside their differences in order to defeat. End of story. Well, sort of. What intrigues me the most about this whole thing is the gap between Thor and the Avengers. What happens during this time that changes Loki? Because there's no doubt he's quite a bit more of a cynical and classic villain. Some people speculate that Loki himself was brainwashed by the Mind Stone. just as he does to Hawkeye and several others throughout the film. This theory is super interesting, and I can't wait to watch the movie through this lens to see what I can pick up. But we also need to think about what kind of person Loki is. He's the god of mischief and known for constantly changing sides. Really, the only side you can be confident Loki is on is his own. He'll do whatever it takes, with whomever it takes, to achieve whatever he wants. And this is one of the reasons he's such an interesting character. So to me, it doesn't seem at all unlikely that Loki would agree to help Thanos invade Earth, especially if he's offered the chance to reign over the humans. Considering what we know of Thanos, Loki was probably forced to choose between ruling Earth or being killed, so who can blame him for choosing the former? So, in the Avengers, Loki is both villain and victim? I told you this guy was complicated. I'm going to try to move through the rest of this video rather quickly. Thor: The Dark World. Yes, you remember the one with the creepy elves and the red floaty thing. Never mind, just wait till Matthew and I review it. Anyways, Loki spends the majority of this movie in a cell. Plenty of time to think about what he's done and not feel sorry for it. Again, he proves himself to be the better character than his brother, as he's literally the only person in the movie to have a real emotional reaction to Frigga's death. Given the fact that he's not an opposing force, I can't call him a villain for this movie. Of course, he's not a supporting force either, but rather very Loki. In Ragnarok, Loki is neither villain nor victim, but he's not really a hero either. Well, sort of. He's very complicated. I think that Ragnarok Loki deserves a video all to himself, so I'll see if I can make that happen. His appearance in Infinity War gives him the chance to be neither villain nor victim, but rather a hero as much as any of the Avengers. Talk about a redemption arc. Okay, I think I've covered most of what I wanted to say. This character is so incredibly complex, I could have gone on much longer, but this is where I'm going to stop. But please continue the conversation in the comments section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Loki for any of his appearances in the MCU. If you enjoyed my detailed look at Loki, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with the fellow nerds in your life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Don't you say it left. Come on!